Hello and welcome to the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunigan.
You know, I took another showtime of Terminator 5 again. And on a second viewing, I think that's actually even better movie. Because once I already go, okay, they're going to go back. Terminator 1 sort of minuses, like in this storyline, T2 through 4. But you know what, when you kind of know that's going on, and then you kind of figure out, it's like, well, there's multiple worlds in this, and by saying that, it almost puts even like the Sarah Connor Chronicles in there too. I think just accepting it all just like that, just like, okay, that works fine. And then like that, because that was like the small thing that kind of bothered me. I remember just going like, that kind of erases T2. But then when I look at it like that, it's like, well, you know, by that standard, they could go in and out between worlds, and still T2 exists and all these other ones.
I was just kind of thinking, I still like that movie, but I was thinking, what was I going to say? There's that whole part, because we never actually found out in this one who sent Arnold back even further the first time around. We never found that out. So that's A, probably something they're saving for a sequel. Hopefully it gets a sequel. And B, that right there, that gives reason. Because I was like, well, I liked the movie, but that right there, I like this movie and all, but it's kind of dumb how it just erases that stuff like it never happened. But I realized, I kind of forgot, because it's like, when looking at like time travel movies, it's almost like an equation. Like, well, that changes that, so this has to change. You know what I mean? You have to kind of think about it for a minute. But I kind of forgot. Oh, right, they sent Arnold even further back, so that would change everything in that aspect. So I'm kind of curious to see. I don't know who sent him that much further back, but yeah, that right there, I think, makes it a little bit more understandable why 2 and 3 didn't happen in that case.
But in a sense, they all still kind of happen, because even John Connor in the movie himself, he explains that he's, we're all people out of time, meaning that there's these multiple timelines going on. So you could technically have the Terminator 6, and it could even go, you could have a movie, even though this is where things get mostly complicated, and where sometimes comic books get kind of weird, but you could have it where you could go in between different versions of kind of like the storyline.
I'm going to say don't do that.
Just because that's always makes it very complicated.
This one already, look, I'm going to say the movie kind of did a smart thing just by saying, like, I noticed our episodes are almost becoming like this, like, previously on the Old Man Orange podcast, like, yeah, so we saw Terminator, and then we're going to talk about Terminator again, like 2 weeks later, but no.
Sometimes when you have the second viewing, that's when you, like, I always say the second viewing's where you can really make your final decision almost on a movie. Some movies might take about 3, but, because sometimes you watch a movie the first time around, and you either have that reaction where you're like, this is so fucking amazing, or you watch a movie, that's fucking stupid. Why would I even want to watch that movie again? And then you come back to it, and maybe either it grows on you, or you go, well, maybe I was just really blown away at that one time period. But when you get that second viewing in, that's when you can kind of dial it in. You know what's going on in the movie, you know what to expect. And then you either go, this is an amazing movie, this is a great movie, or this is an okay movie.
It was like every once in a while you need that. Like when we first saw American, I was like, wasn't that good. The more I thought about it, though, the more I really liked it. And I ended up just seeing it for like cheap, or just like I'll watch it. As more I thought about it, actually, this is a pretty good movie. It's just they advertise it as like George Clooney in a very 60s style, like suspense hitman movie. You're like, oh, George Clooney's gonna fuck some shit up, instead of just like. This is what hitmen do when they're not killing people. They're just kind of hanging out. Just like he's gonna pull a gun out. He's gonna shoot someone in any fucking second. It's gonna happen. And it just like happens. Like he shoots some chick in the back at the very beginning of the movie. Some guy's off in the distance, and then like some guy chasing him. He takes off his. I'm like, oh, that part was cool. He takes off his shoes, sneaks up behind him, just kills the guy that way. At the very end, So it's one of those movies that like not a whole lot happens, but it's just so well shot and. It's so different. It's a pretty good movie. A lot of people thought it was kind of pretentious, but I think that you almost need someone as badass or as suave as Clooney to pull that off. Just kind of like for going to bring full circle here, you need someone kind of like Arnold to kind of pull off those 80s style action movies, which I think that's the reason why maybe some people don't like a lot of them, or like when they're trying to make a modern day 80s one, because you kind of need someone with like a Bruce Willis or an Arnold to pull it off.
Yeah. Well, it's like The American was one of those movies. Like it's all the little things in that movie that just really made cool. Like as you said, with the shoes, and I like when he's in like the garage and he makes a silencer out of like the tools there, and all those little things in it. And I think that's one of those ones like when you kind of sat back and thought about it over the next couple of days, you're like, man, that actually there was some really sweet stuff in that film. I know I have it too. I bought it on Blu-ray at some point.
There's that part where there were some like really tense parts. Like there's the part where he starts seeing that one whore who's doesn't mean insult for those who haven't seen the movie. I'm not making an insult like that one whore. I mean, she literally is a whore. He starts seeing this one whore, and they go to the lake, and he thinks that she might be like a double agent or something out to get him. It's one of those movies that there's very little dialogue. It's all just kind of, you can just kind of see it like in their face, or their eyes, and through their performance. But you get enough of an idea what's going on. And she's all being all sexy. She just strips down to basically her underwear, and he's all like very nervous, and because he knows she has a gun for self-defense, but he doesn't know if she's going to use it on him. So he's all very like, oh shit, he's going to kill this. Is he going to kill this chick? He's going to kill her. Then all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, he's just being over paranoid.
Yeah. No, that is a really cool movie, and I guess because it was kind of like an artsier kind of one, but like I don't know that part didn't bother me about it. I think just when we were going into it,
how many artsy Hitman movies do you have? You know what I mean?
Like what are people balking at because of that?
Well, I guess it could have been like a step artsier. It could have had like a constant like piano playing with like a black and white filter. That maybe would like push some people away a little more.
Because I remember that movie.
At some point, we get a shot of like a balloon like flying away in the wind after. Well, actually, no, it does. Never mind. It has a similar ending to that because a fucking butterfly flies away after he dies. So yeah, never mind. That kind of does happen.
Well, you know what I think also made that movie, like, why our original experience was kind of, like, balked a bit, too, was that movie came out the same day that Machete came out.
That's right.
So we probably got off the Machete bandwagon, like, going, whoa, fucking Machete, Robert Rodriguez! And then you just kind of go into the American next, all fucking hopped up on Mount
George Clooney!
Come on, shoot somebody!
We got the Machete and the American double feature. Like Dan, like Trejo's gonna fuck some people up. You go into like, you think it's Clooney. So when you think about it, though, even though Clooney is a badass, he isn't really always like. He is a badass, but he's not really like he's kind of like a Paul Newman type badass where he can probably sock someone a good like right hook, something like that, or like in a kind of a Western kind of way, but not really that action star kind of way,
Well, he's in From Dusk Till Dawn.
That's right when he's starting off though, and that's kind of like don't get me wrong, I love his earlier stuff like From Dusk Till Dawn, and
that's not even like his earlier stuff. That's almost like it's earlier than a lot of things we're used to, but he goes back even farther to like all these horror movies in the 80s and whatnot too.
Yeah, I know. I guess early when that point, like right before, I'm thinking right before he's famous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was famous.
Right before he's somebody.
Right before he fucking matters. No, I'm joking. No, he's like, like Three Kings, From Dusk Till Dawn, I think are two of his best movies, but even though he doesn't really do that much genre stuff anymore, I think that it wasn't, I think that's like right before. I think what really brings it in is Ocean's 11. I think that's what kind of makes him like a superstar.
Yeah, I think that's at least the pinnacle moment for him is the Ocean's 11 series.
Because you probably don't get that. You probably don't get to Ocean's 11 without
From Dusk Till Dawn.
Or I'm
ER.
gonna say it. ER. Yeah, I'm actually gonna say this. I'm gonna say this. I'm not a fan of the movie, and I want to be, but Batman and Robin, maybe because that's a Warner Brothers movie. Maybe he signed a couple deal picture with Warner Brothers saying, "Okay, you'll be Batman, and then you could be in this Ocean's 11 remake. Who's gonna give a fuck about that?" Anyway, and then like,
well, I think
Ocean's
Three
11
Kings is also Warner Brothers too because it has the flippy fold case. That's always my indication. Yeah, it's got the cheap flippy fold case.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But the hell, there's something else I was thinking about. I don't know if it was George Clooney or Machete or. I really hope they make Machete 3, and I'm not too sure if that movie's going to happen, but...
For a second, I thought you were going to say, I hope they make the Machete American crossover.
I was thinking about that, too, but... I was thinking...
Machete goes back in time and, like, warns George Clooney about who's going to screw him over, so then they team up together.
Well, I watched Machete 2 again the other day, and I was like... I really hope they make that third one. You know what I mean? Like Machete 2, I don't think it's nearly as good as the first one, but I still enjoy it a lot. It has that kind of there's a strange part about the dead center of the movie. Maybe not even dead center. Like after about a half an hour into the movie, where you're just kind of like watching him drag this guy along. That part's the only part where it's just like I don't know if it's slow, but you're just kind of until he gets into the car and then they like cross the border. It just feels like okay, when are we gonna get to another kind of really cool action part or something or another? Or when's Mel Gibson gonna show up?
Well, the thing with that is, I mean, even though he does all like these 80s style over the top action movies, Rodriguez is a pretty good writer. I mean, I think the dialogue in Planet Terror is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Even the dialogue in Desperado is pretty decent. Even though he's improvising a lot, like Johnny Depp's character in Once Upon a Time in Mexico. So I think that he is a decent writer, but that character, I mean, he's not like Quentin Tarantino or Kevin Smith or David O. Russell.
Somebody else who's like really good, you know.
No, you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
You don't go to Robert Rodriguez for the writing. You go there to see like some really cool fucking action. And I think, you know, and like he just happens to be it's a bonus that he's a decent writer, you know. In my opinion at least. But
you might even be able to say he's a better writer than Steven Spielberg, because Steven Spielberg only wrote like 3 movies, I think.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Like same with Ridley Scott. So
and yeah, I don't even know if Ridley Scott ever wrote a movie.
I think didn't he write like the Western, that like early Western he did?
You know, that's not a Western actually. I watched that movie eventually. And I was literally getting prepared for a Western, and then it's like I put it on. It's like, oh, it's like people
just takes place in Montana or whatever.
No, it's like people in the 1700s, like that type of duelist.
Oh, fuck that.
So it was like, I think it's one of those. That's one of those movies. Maybe if I watched it again, because I was so going into that movie thinking I was watching a Western. Maybe I should have read a little bit more on like what the synopsis was. I just went duelist, a fucking Western movie, Ridley Scott before fucking Blade Runner and Alien. It's gonna be so badass. And it's just like one of the ones where it's like people are like, I challenge you to a duel.
Oh,
and you're like,
I just imagine like I never seen, or I just heard you say, oh yeah, his first movie's a Western. Like it's called Duelist. What the fuck else could it be? I'm like, oh well, Spencer said it. He must be right. But, I thought
I did that thing where I look at the title and I make up the entire movie from that point on.
John dies at the end's a little misleading because John doesn't die at the end. I'll tell you that. So check that movie out when you can. But no, but like I was getting off topic. The whole thing with the guy in Machete Kills, that guy he's dragging around with him because he's not really. The whole thing is like, okay, you might be able to get away with like a little bit of tongue in cheek, bad dialogue, or you might be able to make this kind of like at least interesting. He wasn't interesting. He was just really annoying. He was just there. It was just kind of awkward, kind of annoying, and it wasn't really in a fun tongue in cheek kind of way because he was this drug dealer with a split personality and you didn't know which one you were talking to, and it was just very kind of like dismissive, like it's not a big deal. And maybe that was kind of his point, because it was just kind of like, yeah, a bad grindhouse movie would have a character like this. But like even then sometimes it's kind of like, yeah, well, that's not one of the reasons you probably would watch those movies though.
Yeah, well, Machete 1's like a pretty darn perfect movie. It's close to it, I'd say. It's one of those ones where it does like almost like a Mexican exploitation grindhouse movie, and it does it really well. And it's got a lot of good elements in it. It uses the grindhouse method, but still keeps like a really strong story about pretty much like almost like reflecting life. Where Machete 2 does a thing where it's like, well, we already made Machete 1. Let's just take it to like the next level. So let's just make it like way out there. And what makes it way out there? You know, even more violence. And let's throw in, you know, where he's going to go to space. Because I think one of the best openings in that is, especially for anybody who's never seen the movie, is that it starts with that trailer of Machete Kills again in space. And then you're just watching like, oh, that's funny. They're doing a trailer like he's going into space. And then as you watch the movie, you start seeing little things like, is that a fucking laser gun?
It's slowly leading up to it.
That can't be a laser gun. Okay, you keep going on. And then you see like, okay, Mel Gibson's character, he likes sci-fi a lot. He's building a spaceship. It's becoming like a Moonraker movie. Because really that movie actually reminds me of like Robert Rodriguez said, hey, you know what I kind of want to make is a 007 movie. And I'm going to take my Machete character and pretty much put him in his 007 movie. Because that's how it feels. It feels like a 70s, like in a sense, it's like, okay, it's got the grindhouse elements, but it's really almost like a Bond film, too, a lot in it.
Mm-hmm. Same thing with the first one.
The first one like a Bond film?
Well, kind of. I mean, not exactly. It's more like, let me put it this way. I mean, I haven't seen it. I know it just came out, but I know the Spectre trailer just came out. But I guess it would maybe something kind of like which one is it? There's more than one where he's kind of a rogue agent for a little while. But the most recent one that
License to Kill?
maybe License to Kill. I've never seen that one. The most recent one that everyone really liked. I'm already drawing a blank on Skyfall. Kind of like
Casino Royale? Oh,
that kind of like
Skyfall.
rise and fall kind of thing. How he's like an agent and he's coming. Granted, I mean it's the first time we're seeing the character really, but he's kind of like how he's kind of like this outcasted federale, and then he gets roped into this like big thing bigger than him. You know what I mean? It involves
well, I don't know.
I mean, not so much. I mean, the second one definitely.
Maybe now, after you have like Skyfall and stuff that came out afterwards, I could see those
I'm
similarities. But
yeah, I know. I'm
talking about a movie that came out before.
I was like, I'm not gonna lie. I was kind of bullshitting my way through this. So I was kind of autopilot. Oh fuck. Well, there is the one that came out after this. I guess it was,
But and it's one of those ones like what. If they make a Machete 3, so if they make Machete Kills again in space, what that reminds me of is now Robert Rodriguez willing to do, like, pretty much his space opera Star Wars / Flash Gordon-like with the Machete character.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that... Because, Machete Kills, I don't think made a ton of money. I think it did decent, probably, but it didn't make, like, as much as Machete 1 did. And I think that the chances of after seeing how long it took for Sin City 2 to come out, I think the chances of seeing Machete 3 will be slim to none.
I could see him doing maybe like a Netflix original series or something like that, maybe.
Or on his El Rey station, like he did it for Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, something kind of like that. Yeah, which I finished from Dusk Till Dawn. That was pretty good. I'm going to recommend that one.
Did you?
Yeah,
I watched the first 2 episodes, and that's as far as that's mostly how it goes with TV for me. It's like I have a hard time. I don't know what it is. It's like because a lot of times people that have a hard time watching movies in like their full length, it's because they watch a lot of TV shows and they go, well, I can watch like a 20-minute episode, but like my attention span doesn't last long enough. I got the other one where it's like I can watch a full-on movie, like a 3-hour-long movie, no problem whatsoever. I have a hard attention span for going like, oh fuck, we got to sit here and watch like 13 episodes right now. Well, okay.
I'll say this: it starts off kind of like, I mean, I like this, but because it kind of catches me off guard, really. It starts off like this, like just the longer, drawn-out version of the movie with a couple extra. Yeah. The first movie with the only one that matters. God, I feel like I'm like a negative Nancy today. Just like a little cynical, just a little cynical bitch. Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's like the first one. A lot of people say that it seems to, I'll say this from Dusk Till Dawn. People seem to be half and half on that movie. Like the first one, they'll be like, yeah, I love that movie until they get to the bar. And then the other half of people say they love that movie the whole way through, which I'm one of the people. I love the movie the whole way through. I'm not going to lie. I do like the first half a little more, but just for having the balls. That's how I feel. But just for having the balls to go there and just saying like, yep, suddenly there's vampires. It's suddenly a way different movie. I really like that. I give it credit.
Well, yeah, I agree too. I think that's a really neat element to it.
And with it being with the TV show, it actually, you get a lot more, since it's going at a TV show pace, you get a lot more of the road side of it. You know what I mean? It's a lot more of like the crime film, and then the last handful of episodes, it's a horror show. Well, actually, it still is sort of a horror show throughout it, but it becomes much more of a horror show at the very end, as opposed to like the halfway point of what it is in the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's one of those ones I need to sit down and finish it, because I said I only started the first 2 episodes.
And it's good, because it seems at first like it's just going to be pretty faithful to the movie, just like a longer version of the movie. But then when it gets closer to the end, it actually juggles some things up that you don't expect.
Huh. Well, that's pretty sweet. I'll have to continue that one at some point.
So I was like, okay, well, this is the part where so-and-so dies. Oh, shit, he's still here. Oh, wow, they flipped that on me. I wasn't expecting that,
Yeah. Well, let's get to the big movie that, we've all been kind of waiting to see, sort of. But, this is one of those kind of years where it's like, when you have so many humongous movies like Jurassic Park or Jurassic World, Terminator 5, Fast and Furious 7, Avengers 2. When you get to these, the other movies, or I'm even going to say fucking Ted 2, because I think Ted 2 is up there with it, how amazing that is. I mean, it's for the comedy genre. That I still think that movie. I've only seen it once, but I think that's almost a perfect comedy.
I was actually surprised. I thought it was going to be decent. I mean, I like Ted 1 more than you do. I'm like, it's probably going to be decent, but I'll check it out when I check it out. And then when you told me it was really good, and I know you have your problems with Ted 1, it's like, well, if Spencer really likes this one, he has his problems with the first one. That probably says a lot. And I'm glad I checked it out. I saw like the last day it was playing at the theater down the road for me, and it was a pretty damn good movie.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, man, this one's going to... I know for a fact at the end of the year, that'll probably be my top 10. It was that good. And then other good, sweet movies that don't get enough credit, like Batman vs. Robin. There was another, like, really badass movie. So when you get down to, like... What were you going to say?
I was just going to say something about Ted 2. I saw the part when Patrick Warburton and his boyfriend go, like, he's dressed to the tick, of course. They go to Comic-Con. Yeah. They're just, like fucking around with some nerds. It's like, hey, drop this fucking nerd. Like, slaps them down. It's just, fuck, I love this place.
I love that.
They go there dressed as comic book characters just to fuck with people, which I'm wondering if the guy that he was with, is that guy like a big nerd icon? Was he like the because he was dressed like, I don't know my Star Trek. He was dressed like a Klingon from Next Generation. Is that the actor from that? So I was wondering.
I don't think he's from Star Trek. I've never seen him in Star Trek before. I don't know who that guy actually is, to tell you the truth. I was assuming he's just another comedian.
I just kind of like how he and his boyfriend, he just says things very dry. He's like, yeah, we're going to go home and tie the knot. Oh, wow, congratulations. No, that's not a euphemism. We're just going to like literally tie our dicks together in a knot. Oh, okay.
No, there is just so much good stuff in Ted 2. But kind of coming back around to that, we get to a movie like Ant-Man, which technically I think is a really good movie. But when you kind of compare it to like all these humongous movies, I think it kind of like, not like it pushes it down a bit, but it just kind of gets stacked in. And I mean, I think that movie did open pretty well. I think it opened to like $55 million first weekend, So about Terminator 5. Terminator 5, coming back to that one more time, I think in the long run, that movie, when I saw it again, it was more crowded in the theater 3 weeks later than it was on opening day. So I think it's picked up a lot. I know, like, overseas it's made a copious amount of money, because Arnold Schwarzenegger movies mostly always do much better over there. But I think just in the stretch, once, like, Jurassic World kind of died down, then people started to go see Terminator. So that's a good thing right there.
In Arnold Radio News, they mentioned on, like, Rotten Tomatoes that it, like, basically the audience level was around, like, somewhere in the 80s, where, critics were somewhere in the 90s. So I think usually, I think as long as the audience, because I don't know how many people take critics that seriously. I mean, I'm not saying like your opinions don't fucking matter, but I mean, I don't know how much of the movie going public actually really takes that into consideration. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I don't think the power of critics is much anymore nowadays. I rather hear from the people than the critics. I don't, what I mean? But going to Ant-Man. And now Ant-Man's one of those ones, like, this has been a movie that's been in the works for Marvel longer than almost a lot of the other ones. I mean, what was it? Was it Ant-Man announced, like, around Iron Man 2?
I remember Ant-Man, it was announced that Ant-Man was a movie being made before Iron Man 1 was even out. Maybe it was filming, but I remember it was announced when it was being out, and I was like, that's fucking weird. And then it was announced that... I mean, maybe he was already ahead of time, but it was announced Edgar Wright was directing it around the time of Iron Man 2, maybe even a little before that. But yeah, I remember hearing that he was involved with it, and I was suddenly kind of interested.
Yeah, once you hear Edgar Wright was interested, I think that was the thing, because at first it was kind of like, well, Ant-Man's a cool character and all, but it kind of had that same thing like Iron Man. It's like, can you really carry an entire movie with Iron Man? Can you really carry an entire movie with Ant-Man? Like, nowadays, I think it's a little bit different, but I think at that time period, it was because it was still pre-Avengers, so I remember just in my mind thinking, like, are you kidding me? Why don't they just make the Avengers movie and call it good? Like, why do you have to, like, wait and milk out all these characters before we even get to it? I mean, and I think to the general public, the milking it out works much better. But I think to the comic book fan, you're just in there like, what are we waiting for? Like, why don't we just get to it? Like, just start the movie off as Avengers. You can explain everybody's origin in, like, 10 minutes. Boom, let's just start it off like that. But I think tactically for the regular audience, well, extending it out like that.
We're not the regular audience, clearly.
Yeah, clearly we're not, because they're like, yeah, we're not fucking making movies for you. You can go watch your fucking DCU animated films. Ooh. Why is
But
Mr. Marvel talking to me like that?
he enjoys talking down to the little people.
You mean Stanley? No. There's literally a Mr. Marvel there they've created. He's like a robot that makes these things.
He's red and white and just, yeah.
Like, is he related? Is he like married to Miss Marvel? No, Miss Marvel's fuck. It's Miss Marvel, not Mrs. Marvel.
Get it right, you fucking nerd. I just imagine like Mr. Marvel just being this big robot, just shoving like a nerd against the log, going, "Give me your money, give me your money!" Like, yeah,
it's just he's just kind of built like a giant M. It's just like doesn't really have very good like design or anything.
Like it's just like an M with like two robot feet move around and just like whacks people with the side of like of just its side, just boom boom. Where's your fucking money, nerd? Like zooming down over something. Oh, I think that joke ran it.
Well, Ant-Man, going back to that one, the thing about this movie is it really kind of does the old-fashioned, nowadays at least, superhero origin story. But it does it in a sense that it's got these three elements that make it not the same as, I guess, almost like movies like Spider-Man and Iron Man and even things like the original Hulk and Fantastic Four, like the old origin where you're like, let's get to know these characters for an hour, hour and a half. Then we'll slap a costume on, they'll learn what they're doing, and then they'll find a villain and fight them, and movie over. You know, that's kind of the old-fashioned way. And, you know, it works for, like, you know, like the first Spider-Man and a couple of those other movies. There came a period where you're kind of like, okay, I've seen enough of this. Let's just slap the costume on in the beginning, and let's see the entire movie, like, from that point on. But this one, I think what does it well is there's three things. The first one being that you got the Michael Douglas, the Doug, playing the original Ant-Man, and actually being a superhero that pretty much was in the 80s, which I thought was really cool. It wasn't like he just kind of created the suit and just said, like, oh, I'm just going to play with this in my basement, and maybe someday someone will use it.
Mm-hmm.
No, he was full on doing military superhero missions, and then he decided that technology was too dangerous, so he hides it away for 20 years. So you have that element that, like, okay, our main character, has his origin story, but in a sense, the Ant-Man's been around for a long time, so we can start from it already existing. And then the next thing I think that kept it really well is the movie was a heist movie. So that changed the element of it being just a regular origin story, because really the whole movie is a heist movie when you break the whole thing down. It just happens to end in kind of a big battle.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of like, I guess, if you had Ocean's 11, they finally get the money out, and then George Clooney and Brad Pitt would like whip out Tommy guns and just start shooting the place up at the very end. You're like, whoa, I didn't expect that. There was no violence in this movie whatsoever till now.
Or like fucking Brad Pitt and George Clooney go up against
just,
like Andy.
They just rip their shirts off and just start boxing each other like.
Or like Andy Garcia, like I don't know. They're like, well, they're friends. Like I don't know. Just don't question it. Just let them go at it. You know. They're fighting.
So Superman and Batman, but we want to see that happen.
Yeah, if this does good, then we'll make that Superman versus Batman movie.
And now we're gonna make Ocean's 11 4, and now George Clooney and Brad Pitt are just gonna box each other in the street.
It's over. It's like dominance over who gets to rule the 11. You know.
Well, I guess
they're battling.
This one.
They're battling right there in the Vegas Strip. Like the whole crowd, the whole city's just like go.
Somehow some white guy turns into like the battle from like Crank 2, where they just turn into like Godzilla-like creatures.
It's all like Zack Snyder slow-mo, like pouring rain out of the Vegas Strip. And then they have to team up to fight Andy Garcia.
Yeah, who turns into a giant dragon or something like that.
They just
Italian dragon.
All the fucking like Ocean's 11 guys get their own giant robots fused together like a fucking like
Power Rangers.
Sword. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be a sweet Ocean's 14. Did not expect that one coming.
Danny Ocean's Rangers 14. I don't know.
But then going back to Ant-Man, so you got the heist movie thing going for it. And then the third thing to top it all off is just the whole look of the movie from going from big to small. And then really just seeing the special effects being used and just seeing the size and scope of when he goes really tiny and you see the whole world around him. I mean, we've seen movies before like this, like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. So it's not like it's a new concept. But, you know, it wasn't like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. They were like fucking throwing punches and shit.
it was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids with balls. Pretty much.
It just says that in the poster.
Just Paul Rudd with like fucking hold like 2 brass balls in his hands. No, but like I thought what was actually kind of interesting about it was the fact it was a. I mean, I'm not saying this to make like a pun here. Like you said, the whole size ratio is a thing, but in comparison to like nearly, I want to say nearly every other Marvel movie, like Marvel Cinematic movie. This one, I'm not saying this to make a pun. Maybe this is kind of like intentional. It was almost kind of the smallest. Like the other ones, they seem to be at this point where they're kind of global. I mean, even though like Thor, well, you know, Thor primarily took place in like one small little town, but still had like this bigger sense to it. Where this movie still felt like, you know, it was just kind of taking place in houses the whole time. At one point, they go into like a secret lab, but beyond that, though, I mean, the final battle of the movie is in his daughter's room, which it's kind of interesting when you think about it, because they can make each other go small, so that makes it seem a lot bigger. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, but I know what you mean by that, like, because it's not like, you know, like an Iron Man movie where he's flying around the world fighting people in, you know, the sky and so on, or Thor where he's traveling between different planets. Or even Captain America, where maybe he's on a full-on adventure across Europe.
Yeah, exactly. This is very much stays within kind of like the same town. You know, takes place in San Francisco, and then at one point, here's like the thing that actually caught me off guard. I'm really glad Marvel kind of like, I don't know, maybe if you went searching for it, you could find some details about this. But I'm really glad Marvel kind of kept this one quiet and didn't just try and like, oh, and we got this and we got that, like so many comic book movies like to do when they're coming out. They actually legitimately surprised me. There's this part during the heist, because, you know, actually, we'll get to that part. First off, basically, I don't really know anything about the character Scott Lang. I know about Hank Pym. I know Scott Lang is the current Ant-Man, and in this...
But us old-timers know the Hank Pym era, where, you know, he's drinking whiskey and beating his wife.
You know, like, Disney was like, okay, Ant-Man, we can't sell. That's why I was so surprised they're going to give Ant-Man his own movie. It's like, you're going to sell like an action figure to kids of a guy who beats his wife, like with like, you know, like with like, you know, like 16 several phrases, you know, just like 16 different phrases he says. Push the button in the back of his head. Woman, where's my steak? You know. Click it again. She fell down the stairs.
Voiced by Michael Douglas.
Yeah, so I mean that's perfect casting right there, really. So it's one of those things like I know they weren't gonna do that for the I thought that like, okay, so they just got him to be the mentor character who's a little flawed, a little tragic. That makes sense. Like, oh shit, he actually was Ant-Man.
They kind of even almost mentioned the wife beating part. Like they don't just say like but in the very beginning of the movie where like, you know, digital young Douglas walks in.
That was
stuff,
trippy.
and then,
yeah,
like,
that was trippy how real it looked, but it was still like something ain't right here.
Well, I want to say there's another Michael Douglas movie where there's a young Douglas in it too, and I'm not too sure if it's Wall Street 2 or something like that, because I had like deja vu when I saw that. I was like, wait a second, I feel
Tron
like I've seen
2.
this before. Yeah, because Tron 2 has something like that, and then obviously you get Terminator that has that where we get our young people in it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's narrow it. I think it was on one of the painted black ones where they didn't like Terminator 5, but I just like what the guy says. Like, since we have the technology to make young Arnold, can we just like make young Arnold like a main character in the entire movie? I was like, I never really considered that. I'm like, that would be kind of an interesting thing, just to like use one of those like digital ones, but just like say if you took Michael Douglas even, and you just said like we're gonna make an Ant-Man like prequel, but it's gonna take young Michael Douglas. But we're just going to have like a CG version of him the whole time, like that, and the entire movie's like that way.
I think that would be that. I'm sure we'll get to that point eventually, but we already got a little bit of a glimpse of that with Tron 2, because evil Jeff Bridges was the bad guy the whole way, and even though I thought it was like I thought it was fine because he looks kind of creepy and kind of eerie. Because, you know, it's the uncanny valley thing. It kind of worked because he was the bad guy. So I think for having something, which that seems so weird now that I think back on that movie, like, who's the bad guy? Jeff Bridges. Really?
Who's the good guy?
Jeff Bridges. Just this is going to be interesting. It just seems kind of like of everything they could have done. I'm not going to go back because I do like Tron too. One of the few people that likes Tron. We're like the ones that like all the weird odd end movies people forget about.
Yeah, and it's one of the ones that, like, and then we also sit around like debating like how could people not like this?
Yeah,
like, I don't know how you could not like Tron 2. I personally think Tron 2 is better than Tron 1. I like it that much.
I'll say it. Yeah, I'm kind of there with you. I mean, it's just kind of the same story, really. Just it's more or less a remake. Just had the ability to do what the first one wanted to do. But anyway, yeah, things like this. It could have been like any crazy computer program or like a reimagined version of the bad guy from the first Tron, and then it's just Jeff Bridges. He really. He said he could only come back if he was the bad guy. Like, but Jeff, you're the good guy. I want to be the bad guy. Like, okay, well, give him both. You know.
I want to be the son too. It's like, okay, Jeff, you can't play everybody now.
Why not? I don't know why.
He's talking put me as a boy in there right now. You have the technology, I can see.
I don't know why he's talking like Bruce Springsteen, but yeah. Oh fuck, like if they ever make Jeff Springsteen,
if they do the fusion dance.
If they ever do the Bruce Springsteen biopic, you got to get Jeff Bridges to play old Bruce Springsteen. Granted, he's gonna have to do a lot of sit-ups, but because Springsteen's in amazing shape. But wouldn't that be amazing?
That'd be pretty sweet. I can see that. That'd be cool.
I think he's older than Springsteen though, so I don't know how he'd do that now. But whatever. Anyway, we're gonna off topic. So that never happens on this show.
Ant-Man.
Fuck, were we talking about? Ant-Man. Oh right. They're talking
old,
about young Douglas, young
Doug.
Young Doug, which Doug. It wasn't with him. With him, it wasn't as weird or off-putting because he was. It was only just for like one scene. He kind of caught it off guard. It wasn't so much like it had an uncanny valley thing. It was more like, it's not real, but it looks so real. So that's the trippy thing about it. But it was only there for like one 3-minute scene, so it worked fine.
Well, I bet you it's one of those ones like, okay, say if you never knew who Michael Douglas was, just saying you never knew and you saw that, do you think that would have you would have been like, there's something wrong here? Or do you think you would just kind of accept it and wouldn't even phase you? If you never knew who Michael Douglas was and you walk in this movie. You
know what? I bet it's something, I bet that would be like that. It's kind of like another Uncanny Valley thing, kind of like the Paul Walker bit at the very end of Fast and the Furious 7, I think it was, when he pulls up and he next to Vin Diesel says, "Hey Dom, one more race." You just know that wasn't him because they're in the same shot. There's no way they could have done this right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah, I would have had that. But the cool thing about it, in that scene, is it even hints at because they I don't remember what the exact words was, but they pretty much kind of say yeah, and you use your wife there. And she kind of has this look yeah, he does. He gets drunk and then he puts the suit on and starts breaking shit in the house.
Well, in the Ultimates, I want to say maybe I'm wrong here because I don't know all my Ant-Man history. In the comics, the original comics, I want to say it was something kind of I want to say he was trying to prove himself. I can fix this. I can fix this. No, Hank, you gotta wait for the rest of the Avengers. Out of my way, woman. Just something kind of like that. And then I want to say Mark Millar took it a way creepy step further, where in the Ultimates, did you ever read the Ultimates by chance?
I read a couple of them.
In the Ultimates, it was this really unsettling scene, and basically he and Jan get into it, and he's like, "Man, they made a fool out of me at this presentation or whatever." And
man, they made a fool out of me. Fucking War Machine was there, and he was putting me down, and
he's calling me nerd, shoving me in the locker.
He literally shoved me in the locker.
Fucking Captain America was there pointing and laughing. They're all pointing and saying nerd. No, no, but then Wasp says something to the effect of "Oh, it's okay, Hank. Don't talk to me like that. It's belittling. I hate it when you talk to me that way. You're talking down to me. And then he just rips her a new one, and then she's like, "Yeah, well, fuck you. You're an asshole. Who's better gamma radiation? Hank Banner. You're nothing compared to his science." And he slaps her. Says, "Oh, fuck, I'm sorry. I didn't mean.
You're nothing compared to his huge cock."
Yeah, exactly. Just I don't even gotta shrink for that shit to be big. Oh, this fucking bitch.
Fucking on.
No, but no.
This was the opening was supposed to be in there.
This is the delete to
Ant-Man. This is when Edgar Wright was directing it.
So get over here, woman.
It's one of those scenes of no music and no other sounds other than him just beating his wife. Here's a perfect one. You've never seen this one yet, but there's a Payback movie with Mel Gibson. But if you get the director's cut version of it, where it's got the movie's a completely different movie with the director's cut. The entire third act is the different footage, not even the same. ends in a completely different way, all this different stuff. But there's a scene that's in the beginning of it where, like, they cut it out of, like, the regular version where he goes to beat his wife, but it just feels like such a real brutal one. No music. He just gets up and just starts hitting her, hits her with, like, a fucking frying pan or something like that, too. Just like,
Jesus, that's overkill.
Oh, man, it is, dude. You watch it and you're like, I mean, he punches her in the face.
This is the
like,
Parker character?
Yeah.
God.
Like, it's one of those ones, like, those Payback ones, like, I love both versions because each one kind of has, like, a different feel. I mean, the movies are so different. They're almost two different movies. And, like, you get the director's cut's like a gritty 70s Charles Bronson, Clint Eastwood kind of Dirty Harry /
Peckinpah.
Death Wish. Kind of like that style. And then the other one feels more like it's sort of more of an 80s action, noir kind of fun flick. A little bit more fun in the other one. More almost
How do you
like,
go back to having fun after you, like, hit your wife with a fucking frying pan?
Well, you know how they do it? They cut that scene out.
Yeah. I don't know how other way you can do that. I'm just like, Jesus, that sounds like such overkill. But, like...
And I'm talking about, like, it's a great scene. Like, you got to see it. But, like if you
like
had a scene, like...
Shocking.
Well, yeah, I think this was one of the ones you just don't expect. You're like, whoa, that's pretty, like, brutal. But, like, if you had just opening up where he's just beating wasps, like Michael Douglas, CG Michael Douglas.
That's what the scene is like, though, in the comic. And then, like, he slaps her, and he's like, "Oh, well, baby, I'm so sorry. We'll go to counseling. We'll go." You know, it is very much like that. Superpowers.
It's like, this is for love.
Yeah. Why do you make me do this? You know, just this really hard. It hurts me more, you know, just some really weird fucking shit.
And then it just fades to black as you just hear these slaps like bam, bam, bam,
and
the title slows up. With maybe some kind of fun music, like some kind of like whimsy, like superhero music.
Da, 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 da. They never come back to that later. It's just like, it's the same movie. The rest of it's the exact same thing. Just like, man, I gotta see my kid. I'm like, oh, my daddy's the best. You know, just like with Paul Rudd.
That would be like one of those, like, you know, like good alternate or like openings.
It's like they're sitting there, like the Disney execs are like, so what do you think? First, we only got really one complaint. Granted, it's a big one, but
from a small man. What the fuck's calling me small here? Huh? Let me see this cut here. Give me a stogie, boys.
I'm just seeing, like, yeah, that's like, you see just two fucking mouse ears, like, in the center of the fucking, like, private cinema, just all these suits. Like,
he's sitting up so high that, like, they sort of block sort of projector light just a little bit. Like, when the movie gets to a bright scene, you could just see it. Like, two circles, sort of, like, half circles on the side.
Yeah. And then, in, like, the very beginning, he's like, yeah, guys, what's the problem? He's like, well, we want to actually take out that opening scene. He's just like, what the fuck you taking that out? Like, well, Mr. Mouse, you said you want profits. Like, that's some good shit. That's the funniest shit I've seen in a long time. I want to show it to that bitch Minnie. Put her in her fucking place. Oh, wow. Mr. Mouse.
It's like real life right there. Me and Edgar Wright wrote that scene together.
That shit's fucking raw. It's just like, Mickey, you really... We know that how much you enjoy the scene. Like, that was the funniest shit I've ever seen. Like, yeah, but you see, most people, this is a family company. Like, oh, you always gotta bring the fucking F word in here. You always gotta bring the fucking F word.
I fucking hate family. And you get that fucking right now. Don't ever bring the F word in here. You fucking tard.
Yeah, he's like, okay, here, we'll how about this? How about we give you the Edgar Wright cut, and we put the other one in theater. So to you, it's like, you know this is the real version. You know it's real. Yeah, you fucking right. This is the real version. I can't imagine Mickey Mouse being... I mean, everyone looks at Mickey Mouse like, oh, yeah, just that classic icon. But now... I just picture like, yeah, that was 50 years ago. I look at
50 years has been hard on a mouse. Well, actually, more like 100 years by now, but like...
I can't think of that character without thinking like he's like an angry, like... anti-Semitic businessman. That's how I kind of see Mickey Mouse. He's like an angry anti-Semitic businessman who, like, hard drinker, you know, he's just kind of like...
Hot-tempered.
Yeah, like quickly, as soon as a deal goes bad, he's like, "I'm gonna burn this fucker to the ground." I just see him as like that. That's how I see him. I know he's a fictional character, but whenever like Disney makes some kind of like, whenever they sue somebody or make a big deal out of something, I just see it's like a mouse like smoking a stogie, like like with like lines of coke in front of him, just like tonight we're gonna get fucked up because tomorrow we go to war with Universal.
That Marvel lot is ours, I tell you. Fuck them up their stupid asses.
That's how I see him now. That's how I see him. But no, I keep on getting off track. So basically, the original in
we haven't even got past like the first like 5 minutes of Ant-Man.
Oh boy, it's gonna be a long episode. We like so much for being a what are we at? Yeah, so much for being a short one. Okay, anyway, so what ends up happening in the comic though, it was one of those really hard to watch scenes or hard to read scenes because he ends up like he's like, oh, after he like smacks her, he's like, oh baby, I'm so sorry. We'll go to counseling. We'll start taking classes again. I'm so sorry about. Then all of a sudden like she grabs like I want to say like a voicemail machine and slaps him in the side of the head with it. Then it cuts to like a different scene. They're still kind of like the cuts back to them.
Just cuts to something else, just like
that, like,
Captain America and War Machine trying to shove somebody else in a locker.
Yeah, fucking
just
nerds. Yeah.
Put some comic relief in there for a second. Now back to like wife beating.
Yeah, and then it goes back to like fucking bugging Wasp getting like I want to say that like she turns small and like zaps him a few times. This is where it gets comic booky. Zaps him a few times with her like like Wasp powers. I don't know. And then like she goes and hides underneath like something where he can't reach her. And this is the unsettling part. He has like his helmet on, like he sends a bunch of ants after her to get her, and they bite her and all that. And then it cuts. He has like this very like like just soulless, dead-eye look in his face, no real emotion.
And he's got no pants on, just like a boxers and stuff. Just this like very disturbing. Like he's wearing the helmet but nothing else.
Probably. I'm wrong, but
she's laying in the she's in the basement now, and she's just in this pit like tied up with all these ants holding her down as he's looking down at her.
Well, she's like small. She's in her small form, and she's just getting bitten and attacked by ants. And he just has this like soulless, dead-eye look in his face. He says like, "You made me feel small, Janet. You should know not to make me feel small." And I was just like,
"You wouldn't like me when I'm small."
And like fucking Hulk just walks in, unzips his pants. This is Hulk small.
You should see Hulk when he's hard.
You won't like Hulk when he's hard. Oh my god, that'd be such a good fucking. Don't make me hard.
That's how Nick Fury got his eye patch.
That's how Nick Fury got his eye patch.
He lost an eye when Hulk got hard.
Don't make me hard. You wouldn't like Hulk when he's hard. That doesn't happen in Ant-Man. Let me just say real quick, though. What if it did, though?
That's not... when they were teasing that there was supposed to be an Avengers character in there? It wasn't Hulk showing up at the beginning.
Just dropping his dick out.
But no, so like, okay, whatever. They hinted at the sort of like spousal abuse in 1989. And then from that point on, we cut to like the person that's really who we're going to know Ant-Man as, Paul Rudd, who just got out of jail for like, he's really like, I'm fighting the system, man, but clearly nobody seems to want to defend him.
Nobody at all.
He returns, but he breaks into a place, hacks into the computers, sends all this, stolen money back to the people that were pretty much robbed. And then he gets arrested.
Yeah. And then, like, he goes to hang out with, like, some old crew, like, an old friend of his. I don't remember the actor's name, but he's actually, he's the dude, and he's in a couple of things. I want to say...
He's in Sniper.
He's in Sniper?
The Marky Mark movie?
Oh, that's Shooter.
Or Shooter, yeah, there you go. Sniper, Shooter. I was close.
He was a sniper, yeah. He was in that. Wasn't he also in, this might be a different dude, but wasn't he also, like, the younger Mexican dude in Gangster Squad?
Oh, I think you're right. I think he was that guy. I could be wrong, though.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I've seen this guy in a handful of things. He's always pretty good. But yeah, and he's just he's almost kind of well. There's it's this movie's definitely an action comedy, but
It's
it's
actually not as much like I was actually expecting to be more action comedy. It's pretty much about on par with a lot of the other Marvel films, though, for the amount of comedy in it. And I'd say something like Guardians of the Galaxy has more comedy than Ant-Man does, or even Iron
yeah.
Man itself has more comedy. I mean, I'm not saying, but like I don't know. I guess I expected more of an action comedy, and then I was like, well, it's got comedic moments, but they feel well placed, and it's not like full of them and so on.
Yeah. Well, there's a part where I want to say well, anyway, he teams up with that guy, and he's like just crashing with that guy. He's like, "Oh, don't worry, I'm going to get a job pretty soon." He ends up getting like just dead end jobs like Baskin Robbins. They find out that he fakes his name, he has a criminal record, so he gets fired. Those kind of things. Which there is a really funny bit in there, like when he gets there. I mean, this is kind of your typical kind of like Marvel style humor, but still, like just every once in a while they can hit a few good ones like this. And he says like, "Yeah," he says, "How'd you guys find out?" He's just like, "We're Baskin Robbins. We always find out." And later he goes over. He's telling his friends like, "Yeah, they found out. They Baskin Robbins fired me." Like Baskin Robbins, man, they always find out. You know.
Well, the other thing you kind of wonder when you see like this, like product placements, like because technically what that's saying is that Baskin Robbins is just a shitty fucking place, and it's like it's kind of like almost you almost want to ask Baskin Robbins like, "You guys okay with like us pretty much putting in the movie that you're like the lowest of the low areas to work?"
Yeah, we know
Yeah,
it.
yeah, we're fine. Yep, not judging that. The customers don't seem to care.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I always kind of wonder that a little bit. Every so often, you'll hear things like I was one time listening to the Superbad audio commentary. It was a slow, long day, and they said something. They said something to the effect of like, "Yeah, like we had like a product placement with Pepsi and Coca-Cola, and they said like whatever you do, we do not want the Seth character drinking any of our products."
They probably first came across. We don't want that fat one. He has a name. No. He's a fat one, and he's a bad influence on us.
We don't want him drinking any of the products. We don't want the Jonah Hill guy drinking any of the character, any of their products. So,
just
now,
that's one of those ones. It's like really. It's like I mean now they'd be grateful if Jonah Hill would drink a fucking Pepsi on screen.
That's just when he was like the mad fat kid though, and Superbad though.
Yeah, when he only had a handful of movies under his belt so far.
Mm-hmm. Now he's an Academy Award nominated actor. But yeah, anyway, we're getting off topic again. Like that never happened before on the show. So anyway, he's going around from he's trying to get a job. He wants to see his daughter, but she's in the custody of his wife, who's played by Judy Greer, and then some asshole cop, who's the new husband. And she's trying to see the kid as much as he can. So what he ends up doing is he gets desperate and takes a job working at basically takes this job where he has to break into a safe. Turns out the safe he has to break into belongs to Hank Pym, and it was kind of staged that way because Hank wanted to see if this guy could be the next Ant-Man to steal because his protege ended up making like the Yellow Hornet, not the Yellow, the Yellow Jacket. Yeah. Ended up making the Yellow Jacket suit, which is, I believe, an Ant-Man villain, and he was going to mass produce it. They still haven't figured out the formula to make people themselves small, but they're getting close. So what they end up doing is it's basically a heist film. So once he gets Paul Rudd, they're training him to use the suit properly, how to concentrate properly, and break in and steal the suit. And his daughter, which I don't remember the character's name, but she's played by Evangeline Lilly, who's in Lost as well as the Hobbit movies, as one of the elf chicks. She's basically kind of the love interest kind of thing, that whole song and dance, and she's also the daughter of Hank Pym.
And she also becomes the new Wasp.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure, because in the comics, that character, his daughter, becomes Red Queen, which is a villain. So I don't know if they're setting her up to be Wasp, or if they're setting her up to be Red Queen, because we find out at some point in time that, like, yeah, there was an Ant-Man that was, like, covert secret agent stuff going in and, like, during the 80s. But they kind of, he pretends like none of it ever happened. And they say there was a Wasp, but she went so small, she got lost in the microverse, and she's assumed dead. Which it wouldn't surprise me the least bit if she comes back, like, in, like, one of the Avenger movies or whatever, if there's a next Ant-Man. You know what I mean?
Because obviously Paul Rudd can come back, then why not?
Exactly. That's what I'm kind of thinking. And on top of that, they also have whatchamacallit, like I mean she might I mean she knows she maybe she might be the Wasp. I just overheard like that character is a villain in the comics. Maybe I'm wrong. Or she becomes a villain over the time. So we'll see what happens.
She might. It sounds like that might. Well, because the end of the movie spoilers pretty much just says, which you kind of already knew this going into the movie, but it just kind of says it like, here you go. Here's a new Wasp costume for you. So I think for the Marvel films, she will be the Wasp character.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
Since they kind of did it differently, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
By not using like the main characters of it, treating those ones as the older ones.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows? Maybe later down the line, she might become a villain, like a handful of movies farther in.
Yeah, which I don't know if these Marvel movies will have the guts to do that, because they do seem to kind of like they push it. They kind of like push the boundaries in some ways, but now I think they might make her the villain. But at the same time, I'm kind of thinking like, what's the next? Because the thing about the Marvel movies are doing, they would push the boundaries in like a fanboy kind of way. Like, yep, that's right. We're getting these characters. We're going to try and present them in a way that fans and people who don't know the comics alike can ultimately like it. And and then they even went to like even though I didn't like the twist, it was kind of a ballsy twist in Iron Man 3, the whole thing of like, that's not the real Mandarin, So I think one of the next things you can do, and then I think one of the next things you can do is to actually surprise people, because now people are able to see these Marvel movies like clockwork, because they're actually pointing out no one ever fucking dies. Maybe eventually kill people off, and even maybe something even further than that, like have a good guy go bad. So that could happen,
Yeah, well, I think the next thing they need to do, and it's like, they've done it before in the, other Marvel films, like most of the ones that weren't made by Marvel Studios. But the Marvel Studios ones, they technically are, like, in that campiness. Like, and I don't mean, like, campy as a bad word, 'cause campy is a lot of times used as, like, a derogatory term towards, like, film and TV. But that's what they really are, though. They're kind of like, it's a colorful world where, yeah, in a sense, nobody dies, good versus evil, all that kind of stuff. So the next thing to do is just to take it and just keep the campiness there, but just give it a little bit of a dark note. Throw in somebody actually full on dying, and maybe brutally dying, you know what I mean? Have those kind of things. And then start pulling in your darker characters like the Punisher and things like that, and start just adding them in there just to have a dark element. You know what I mean? Because you think about even like with Avengers 2, you got somebody like Ultron, but he's kind of like spouting out like one-liners and things like that too. It's not like he's this like there's not a villain in there who's just totally evil. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They don't have somebody who's just literally like, like a villain who's out there just like kind of hunting down the heroes and like almost not killing all of them off one by one, but like something like that, where he's like, oh fuck, it's like this, the guy just, let's just say, I'm just gonna use Ultron for example, because this is almost mind of a character who movie. Like, if Ultron ended up killing like maybe two of the characters in the Avengers.
I assume that they're almost trying to make you think like, see Hawkeye, see how we're getting to love him, see how we're getting to know him.
Yeah, I know. That's not Hawkeye, because that's everybody wants Hawkeye to die. It's like, no. I love my Hawkeye. I don't want him dying.
I was sad because I was like, okay, they're actually giving Hawkeye. He's actually a legitimate character in this movie, and like
everybody seems to complain about that.
I love that. He's one of my. Hawkeye is one of the comics I actually read from Marvel right now, and I was just watching this like, don't kill Hawkeye, don't kill Hawkeye. Just guess who's gonna fucking die? Not Hawkeye, Quicksilver. Like, oh. Okay.
Oh, thank Christ.
I guess that guy. Yeah.
Could die.
Quicksilver can die.
Quicksilver died. Yeah. It's just like, it's like, but like those ones, like, because everybody like afterwards, like, why do they even give fucking Hawkeye like that, like cabin scene? Like nobody gives a flying fuck about Hawkeye. I'm like, what about the guy that's got a Hawkeye poster in his room? It's like some of us here like Hawkeye. In fact, I actually like Hawkeye more than all the other Avengers.
Don't take this meeting as it was. Like, say, like, I don't know, like 5 years, like 3 or 4 years ago, but like you're like the 1% right there. The guy with the Hawkeye poster in his room.
I think I still am, because I remember when I found that poster, I'm like, this thing's fucking badass. I'm like, who the hell's gonna have a Hawkeye poster?
I like that poster. Yeah, I just already had enough posters in my room, so I didn't get it. But that was a pretty badass poster. But yeah, I was so glad. Like, I think he could have his own like Marvel movie or his own. People may like laugh when they hear that. Well, Actually, you know what? Given the way they've kind of set him up in Avengers 2, I guess you really couldn't do because in the Marvel in like the current run in Marvel now. I mean, keep in mind I'm always a couple months behind, but he's basically single. He bought like this. There's like this apartment complex that's being constantly harassed by the Russian mob. He beats the shit out of the Russian mob, drops a couple $1 million in front of him. I just bought that complex from you. Leave him alone. Fuck you. Walks out, and basically he's kind of the landlord of this complex, and he tries to help the people out as best he can, as well as still fighting crime and on like other like So it's very much kind of like it would have been. It has kind of like the '70s action film kind of vibe to it. So I think that would have been like a perfect Hawkeye movie or Hawkeye like Netflix show. But now,
technically, Hawkeye, you got like 40 years of Hawkeye entertainment, if not longer than that, to pull from. There's a lot of stuff you could do with Hawkeye. I don't see a reason why he couldn't have his own film.
Yeah, and I was thinking, you should go from this. I'm like,
well, once again, if Iron Man can have fucking 3 films, why can't Hawkeye have at least 1?
That's a good point. I'm in the same boat as you. People actually like him a lot more now than what they did, especially after this movie, in my opinion. But at least from what I've seen, I think people like him a lot more.
Yeah, well, Hawkeye's like, he's like, I even hear people say because they like Hawkeye, like, that guy character's kind of cool. Or they go, why the fuck do they give that guy more scenes in this movie? And you're kind of like, well, because he's cool. Cooler than Iron Man.
I've already seen enough like Iron Man. I love Captain America, but I kind of that movie.
Captain America, you can never have too much of the Captain.
No, yeah, he's like probably my second or third favorite superhero. But I'm just like, what? Let's give like a character we haven't seen a whole lot of, because Hawkeye, yeah, he had some cool stuff in the first Avengers. It's just like, oh, there he is. It's like, okay, he's corrupted at the beginning. Now he has a couple of cool scenes at the end. That's cool. But then this one, it's like, no, he's here for like the long haul of it. So that's what was cool about him. And he was like the one guy. He was the one guy not to get taken down by Scarlet Witch in that one whole scene.
That's true. So you had that. Well, you know what you could use Hawkeye for? He would be a good one just to have the full-on Hawkeye movie, but then use him to bridge in like a bunch of like minor Marvel characters and do it that might not have at least films at the moment, but you could kind of like, you could use him to sort of like build up a character roster that you could then incorporate later into like the other Avengers films. But obviously nobody gives a flying fuck to give Hawkeye his own movie yet. So.
I think they're going to do that. They kind of been doing that with like I feel like they've been doing that a little bit here and there. But you were talking about like the Marvel villains earlier. As far as the movies go, I think the only real good movies in the cinematic universe, because Yellow Jacket's not that good. The only good ones so far, I think, was like Jeff Bridges as Ironmonger, Loki, Ultron, and then Kingpin from Daredevil. I think those are the only ones that really kind of stood out. Everybody else just seems kind of like, I am bad for just whatever, and they're not really that threatening about it. I'm not saying they gotta have these complex stories, but they're just kind of like, they're there,
Yeah, and I think it's just one of those ones you just kind of. I think they just need a villain who's just is very threatening and very like scary and very almost like dark and evil, and like because Batman's good about having like he's got a copious amount of those villains you can pick and choose from. But it seems like in these Marvel ones, at least for the Marvel films, it's like they're just not pulling that out as much as they need to.
Ben Kingsley in Iron Man 3 was for a minute until they pulled that joke. And now that's one of the things about Iron Man 3 is like, oh, wow, I'm really digging this interpretation of Mandarin. And I wasn't being one of those people like, oh, he doesn't have the magic rings and he's not a Chinese stereotype. That's not really what I was whining about. I was more whining about because, like, he was actually very threatening and he was actually kind of like, that's actually a really cool, weird interpretation of him. I like this. And then it's just like, oh,
and then they pull the rug out from underneath. And just like, yeah.
Which I'll say that did take balls, but on top of that, it's like
the wrong kind of balls.
At the same time, it also takes balls. Probably walk it into like the ghetto, screaming the N-word and seeing what happens. So you probably won't like the outcome,
Well, I think that's one of those ones like that would take balls in a different type of movie. But in that movie, it's just like, oh, you finally are getting this serious Iron Man movie, and then it's like, oh no, it's still just the regular wacky old good times with Robert Downey Jr. It's I think that was it, because Iron Man 3 I thought was gonna be the turnaround for me. I was like, maybe they're gonna finally get Iron Man right, where he's not the wacky, funny character. Maybe they'll make, because the trailer was made out to be so serious, like you were like gonna watch like fucking Dark Knight Rises or something like that. And I was like, okay, that'd be sweet. I expected, a handful of comedy things here. I mean, if the movie went full on dark, where it's like, this is serious, this is dark, like life is sucky.
It was trying to make it look like this is like Iron Man Rises. They're almost trying to make it look like that because everything in there was implying the end of him because they're showing like his house crumbling, him falling. You hear like
it ends at,
the
like
Latin
his chest
choir.
is
Yeah, the Latin choir just kind of like blues, 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 blues. He's like falling down into the water, and then you cut to like the end of it. It kind of gives you this faint because that was a really well made trailer, I will say, because it gave you
the
this little
trailer
bit
was
of.
better than the movie.
I mean, I liked Iron Man 3. I'm looking back now. When I first walked out of it, I was like, it was okay. The more I thought about it, and I've seen it a few times since then, I like it. It's not amazing, but I like it. I don't feel the need to own it, but it was enjoyable. I'll say, like, it did have this whole, the trailer as it cuts to him, it has like the Iron Man 3, and the light just cuts out. And then it has him just like walk the snow with the thing lugged over his shoulder, just very
Carrying
dimly
his
lit.
suit.
And then it just kind of like faintly comes back on, like so with the date. It says like, oh, there is hope, kind of one of those kind of things. But then like the movie comes out and there's just too much comedy. I mean, it's still a fun movie, but too much comedy.
Yeah, I'm not saying it was like a terrible movie. It's just one of those movies. I think it's like probably if I watch it again, knowing going into it that I'm watching a comedy and not watching this serious movie that I thought I was getting, I think that's kind of like brought it down for me because it's like they sold it off to me as just being like we're gonna take this character really serious for once. We're not gonna make him the funny guy. So I was like, sweet, this is gonna be badass. It's not gonna be just kind of like a popcorn flick. And then it was like, oh well. I guess not. I guess the people that like Iron Man clamored and said, "Get that fucking serious shit out of here. We fucking hate Batman." And you're like, "Well, it's not Batman."
Yeah, I mean, people like. I mean, one of the things you hear people say about like the Batman versus Superman. We'll get back to Ant-Man. We will, but all right. Well, one of the things you would hear was like, I remember after the Batman Superman trailer came out, the second one that is, heard people saying like, yeah, it just looks like it's taking itself way too seriously. And the whole thing with that is, I don't have a problem with it taking itself seriously. I mean, I can understand you want some lighthearted stuff, but I think it sets itself apart because, I mean, I'm not saying because people say that DC's trying way too hard to be dark and brooding. Even people who I respect and who I think are smart have been saying that. But regardless, I think it's a good thing to kind of just like mix it, like I think that you don't want it to be too much like Marvel. That's
because to me it's like there's always so many people that they want DC to be more like Marvel, and I go no, because I think that's why I like DC stuff way more, because it's not like Marvel. Don't get me wrong, I like Marvel, but I like that because I personally think everybody always wants to talk so highly about these Marvel movies, which I enjoy all of them, but I still think the DC ones pretty much most of them outbeat all the Marvel movies, and I just think because I like that they take the material a little bit more serious. Maybe they go, with like a little too grounded in reality and things like that. I mean, there is elements that could be, probably improved, but vice versa with the other source. But and it's one of those ones like, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's like I like the idea. Like I'm the kind of person like I like a Batman. I can watch like a kid's version of Batman and still really enjoy it, like something like The Brave and the Bold or Batman Unlimited and stuff like that. But then I also like to have my dark Batman, like a Batman versus Robin or Dark Knight Returns things. Like I like that mix of having all that stuff. But in the movies, you only really get like one movie every 5 years, so you kind of almost want that movie to focus the best of both of like all the stuff together, sort of like a Arkham Knight or Arkham Asylum thing.
And I want to say that like I think that I don't think that DC really is that dark, really. I mean, Batman's dark because how else should you present Batman? Batman should be presented dark. The whole thing with Superman, I don't really think Superman... People talk about how dark Man of Steel is. I don't think Man of Steel, in all honesty, maybe this makes me sound like a real, like, I don't know, like a real, like, downer person. I don't think Man of Steel is that dark of a movie. I don't really think it is.
Well, I think it is just when you compare it to the Marvel stuff.
When you compare it to the Marvel shit, yeah. When you compare, yeah.
Because okay, well here's the thing. Because Clark Kent's not like slapping out like jokes left and right, and he's not trying to be real witty and funny and making you have these kind of characters that you think are really bad, like badass, and they turn out to be kind of like jokes.
Mm-hmm. No, I know that it is one of the it's more than anything. It's more like I think I'm just gonna say I don't think it's that dark because looking at it, it's just trying. It's not even trying to be that realistic. It's just trying to say, all right, rather than approach it like a superhero movie, like every other superhero movie, and approach it as like how you would a normal Superman movie, which we've already seen Superman a fuck ton of times. What if we approached it like it was just a science fiction film? You know,
Mm-hmm.
just a science fiction film with shit like with the state with high consequences. Where even because we've already seen kind of like very happy optimistic Superman. And I still think this is a little optimistic. I just think it's still just I just think it's a little bit more darker in comparison, just because we haven't seen that yet, and there are Superman books that aren't that bright and vibrant, but they still ultimately end on the note of like, hey, things can turn out okay. And people talk, and then once again, we'll always go off on the collateral damage thing. But anybody who's cracked open a Superman book can see that
or
shit
a
happens.
cartoon, or anything else.
That shit happens all the time. That's nothing new. So that's kind of, and yeah, I could say the one thing that maybe did catch me off guard when I saw the movie is when he snapped Zod's neck, because he barely ever kills. The only person I know for a fact he killed was Doomsday. But my thing is that he was like a mindless monster. But my thing is like, once he kills,
He wasn't a real person.
He wasn't American. Let's put it that way. But no, he was just like a mindless monster, and so it's like whatever. But at the same time, he still killed something at the end of the day, and I guess that's canon or whatever. But but I think that it's like I think if you're going to compare it to something like Iron Man, yeah, it is pretty bright and it is pretty dark. But in comparison to like nearly any other movie, it's just on the same level, I think.
Well, here's the DC movie that tried the Marvel format. It's
Green
Green
Lantern.
Lantern. Like, that movie literally said, let's try the Marvel format. We'll make the character kind of funny. We'll keep it a little bit lighter. You keep the colors warmer, and so on. And I personally like that Green Lantern movie a lot. I think it's really good. I don't think it's like a perfect movie, and I think if they would have just done Green Lantern like Guardians, when I saw Guardians of the Galaxy, the first thing I thought was like, they did the Green Lantern movie perfect, because you see this kid for all of less than 5 minutes. It's like opens up, he gets sucked into space, and from that point on, we never ever see Earth ever again. And I think that's like what the Green Lantern movie should be like that too, where in 5 minutes he crashes his plane, gets the ring, gets told the lore, and from that point on, he's in space the entire time.
Or we can just cut like several years later. He just comes across the ring like, oh yeah, years later, I'm a badass like space warrior, space cop.
Well, you know what would be the thing to do is just you do like a 5-minute origin just to catch up anybody who has no idea who the hell Green Lantern is, and then you do the thing where you say 5 years later,
yeah,
or even 2 years later. So then you just assume in that period, obviously he learned all his training, and we don't even have to show that. But I think for just being like, okay, if you take Green Lantern movie and just say, hey, this is the very first Green Lantern movie that's ever been made in 60 years. I think if you just look at it like that, I don't think it's so bad. And I think it's one of the ones, yes, they should be in space the whole time, but once you kind of accept, okay, they're not going to be in space the whole time, he gets the ring, and he goes back to Earth. The only part that makes me question is, like, how the hell does he get to keep that ring?
Like when he leaves, like, can he fucking do that?
It's kind of like somebody quitting their job and then going like, and then their paycheck keeps getting sent.
He keeps his job, and he says, "Guess what? I'm keeping the keys to the fucking building," and just walks away.
I'm keeping the company truck, and he drives out with it.
I'm just kind of surprised that part. Like they should have just held on for a minute. Like this would have almost been like a Marvel joke almost. But when he flies away, like I can't do this. Like space and aliens, it's all too much. Bye. Flies away. Like fucking Kilowog and like Tom Ray are standing.
Guardians.
They're just looking around like. They just fucking take the ring.
In 10 billion years, nobody's ever just done that. So I guess we need to go back and write a new clause in the contract there.
Yeah, there's a lot of red tape around. This is going to be, or green tape. Ha 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 ha. They're just like, no one laughs. Like, all right, whatever, fuck you. So
one just leans over, slaps the other one across the face. Like, don't make a fucking joke again here. This isn't a fucking Marvel movie. Stop breaking the fucking fourth wall.
That's like the one Guardian that's like that they just he's like
the cool Guardian.
He's the cool Guardian. Like all the other Guardians hate him, but all like he's like the one. He's like he relates to all the actual like lanterns.
Really like he's like the kind of Guardian that Jeff Bridges should play.
He wears
just paint Jeff Bridges blue and just like literally that's what that Guardian reminds me of. He's just so relaxed and chill, and he's like the dude of the Guardians.
He wears like he wears like Ray-Ban sunglasses and like a Hawaiian shirt, like to all the meetings. He's the much more relaxed one. He's just like, we Guardians don't know fear. We're like, hey man, we just gotta chill the fuck out. Just like, oh, that's Frank. Frank, just please, let us get through this. We're in the middle of talking to our newest recruit. No, all this recruit needs to do is he just gets to get out there and he just has to fucking do it, man. You know? There's just this one Guardian that just stands out like a fucking sore thumb among all the others.
But you know, it's like overall,
we're all green, bro. Why do you think we're all green? Get it?
He just like whips out a bong, just starts like hitting it.
Yeah, he's like he like looks over. He's just like, I get migraines.
You know, space. You know, and shit.
It's prescription. He's been saying that for over 9,000 years.
Hell, Kilowog's my dealer. I mean, you know.
Kilowog's like, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up.
I'm in the military here. Get caught with this stuff, you know.
It was a different phase of my life.
But you know, it's like that Green Lantern movie, though. It's like like if you just take it at face value, what it is, and not like trying to think of what it could have been. I think it's a pretty good movie, like just in that aspect.
I mean,
I personally like it more than like a lot of the Marvel movies. I think it does a better job than a handful of them.
I thought it was all right. I didn't think it was like amazing or anything, but I mean, I thought it was all right. I didn't think it was like that bad. I mean, I guess I'm just kind of looking at it at what I can't help but kind of think what it could have been, just because that's the same director of Casino Royale, Mask of Zorro, GoldenEye. So he did a lot of really good action movies. So I was kind of like, why wasn't this one like a little bit more like, I don't know. I mean, just given everything else he's done, I thought it just seemed a little kind of like formulaic. And, you know, I still like it, but I guess I was just expecting something a little different. It's just one of those things, you got the character that his whole thing is space. That's his whole thing. And you choose to spend 5 minutes in space and go back to Earth and then focus on the mad scientist who's getting telekinesis. And we're going to focus on his relationship with his childhood friend, which I wonder if that's going to work out. And, like, when you could be spending time with... No. I'm getting trained by a space pig, a birdfish, and a pink man that hates humans, you know?
And my bosses are a bunch of blue men.
Yeah. So, you know, it's one of those things, like, I guess... The movie, I mean, is what it is. It's an entertaining movie. It's not amazing to me, but it's entertaining. It's a movie that could have gone anywhere, but it just went the one direction that nearly every other movie before it went, you know? Or nearly, not every other, but a lot of other superhero movies went. And,
yeah, because it definitely does, it plays it safe, does the formula that was kind of used in the last 10 years for superhero flicks.
It's almost kind of like, look, I love Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'm not trying to just like beat like that, like put that one too much on a high of a pedestal, but almost what would have been a better like Green Lantern movie. This weird, I mean, I'm not even a Green Lantern reader, just this weird ragtag team of Green Lanterns that just kind of are on a job, and he's the new guy getting dragged along.
Yeah, well, perfect example of that is the Green Lantern TV show. That's what that one sort of is. It's just fucking Hal Jordan, Kilowog, this Red Lantern, and then a computer robot lady. And, like, it's just them traveling through space, you know, fucking heavy metal style, like, doing missions and whatnot. Okay. And, like, right there in itself, like, if you ever get a chance, check out that Green Lantern one, the CG show. It's full-on amazing.
It has, like, a Bruce Timm art style to it, even though it's CG.
Yeah. It is so good. Because I'll tell you this, Green Lantern is probably like my third favorite comic to go out and read. I like Green Lantern that much. And it was one of those characters, like, you know, for the longest time, it was like, all right, Green Lantern, you know, he's cool, but, like, I didn't think much of it. You know, you see him in Justice League, you see him in stuff like that. But once I started reading Green Lantern, the thing I liked about it so much is that in the whole point of the comics is you're always seeing stuff you've never seen before. It's like, you know, in Batman and Superman, you kind of know what you're always going to see. They're in Gotham City. It's kind of a regular city with just extreme crime. Like, that's what it is. You know, Superman, he mostly is always in Metropolis. Every once in a while, he'll go travel around space. But in Green Lantern, you're always in space, and you're always going to like the farthest ends of the galaxy and on these like giant voyages and so on. And you have no idea what kind of creatures you're going to find and where they're going to go, and what type of planets there's going to be. And I think that's just really cool. It's never the same old, same old.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing about the movie is just kind of did same old when it could have gone anywhere else. And, it was still like an enjoyable Ant-Man.
Yeah, going back to Ant-Man, because, this wasn't like the new Green Lantern movie came out.
Isn't that the thing we always say? We always end up like saying, like, well, let's talk about this one thing. We always talk about like DC or
well, no matter what, it's like don't get me wrong. It's like I like Marvel. Like I guess this is how I say it. Marvel's one of those ones I like Marvel, but I love DC.
I get you. I'm on the same boat.
DC just captures me that much more than Marvel. It's like my favorite Marvel stuff is the X-Men. And it's like, don't get me wrong, I like all this other Marvel stuff, but like, I'm not the biggest expert. Like Ant-Man, the only thing I've ever read in Ant-Man is when he's in like a couple of like, I almost said Justice League comics, when he's in a couple of Avengers comics, and then just from the animated Avengers shows. Like, and that's where the shows is where it kind of like, gave me a real greater appreciation for him. Because, once they had a handful of episodes that just focused around Hank Pym, you're like, this character's pretty badass. I actually think Ant-Man's going to be a really sweet character when they make the movie.
Mm-hmm. Which I actually, they made him actually, for being like this flawed character, they made him actually fairly likable, I thought, Well,
I'll say Michael Douglas, as Hank Pym. That was my favorite part of the movie. He was my favorite character in the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. It was pretty good. It was actually, I guess I'm not sure if we said this or not. I actually liked the movie. It was a good movie. And the one thing I said earlier, I think before we just went on a million other tangents, that probably took up most of the episode. I think we just call this like DC Talk featuring Ant-Man,
Yeah.
But with a little bit of George Clooney and Brad Pitt and Machete. But there was like how small the movie seemed in comparison to other Marvel movies, which here's something I was going to say before we went on a bunch of other tangents. Something that legitimately surprised me, and I'm really glad, because most superhero movies like to kind of throw all their surprises out there right at you. This is one where they did keep it hush-hush, and when it actually happened, I was pretty surprised. There's a part where they're like, all right, well, we got to go get this reactor of some kind from one of Stark Industries' old like storage facilities. And you just look at like a old picture of it from like a satellite. You don't think anything of it. You're like, okay, whatever. Even though I've seen that before, I didn't even cross my mind. Didn't even think anything of it. Then he's zooming in on it on the mission. He's like he's on a plane, and then he's riding a bunch of ants down, like flying ants down to this facility. And then when you see what it is, it has the A on it, and you're like, oh shit, that's the new Avengers compound. That's the brand new you see at the end of Avengers 2. It's like, guys, it's no longer an abandoned facility, And then they're like, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. All right. I bet what's going to happen, he's going to get there. We're going to see like the Iron Man shield on not the Iron Man, the Captain America shield on the wall. Maybe like
go in there. It's like, what? There's an Iron Man shield? Boy, we don't have to use that ever.
Yeah. Just like fucking like you see Steve just like Tony always trying to fucking one up me, man. Always trying to one up me, It's just like the same thing as just like the Captain America shield, but just has Iron Man's face in the middle, and it's a little bit more thicker, a little bit more like stronger.
It's just a couple inches bigger, and it's sitting right next to the Captain America one, just to kind of.
He's just like, I'm just gonna put this right here. Not that I need it, but you never know. Has like the little glowing arc reactor right in the middle of it, just so you know.
Might not be able to chop wood, but at least I can build a bigger shield.
But I was expecting something kind of like they go there. There's like a Captain America. He walks through the room, and there's a Captain America shield, or there's like you see like Scarlet Witch's outfit hung up somewhere. I was expecting something like that. Then he gets there.
Then he just starts leading it, just like. You just see like, why do we keep seeing their suits? And then next thing you know, it just goes in. It's just there's this huge bukkake like circle going on. The Avengers.
Avengers orgy.
Yeah, just like no.
It's a team bonding exercise.
Okay, Steve, now jump on back of me and act like we're wrestling. Like, oh no, that seems a little gay, fellas.
I miss 1942. I don't know if I wanna. Steve, quit being a pussy and fuck me in the ass.
Now, Hawkeye, get the video camera out.
Yeah, it's hot. It's hot, right?
This is something you're gonna want to show your wife and kids later.
Vision, why do you keep talking us into doing this?
Vision's like, I just have to see what the homo man is like.
I have to. I must download this information
and upload it to what I hear is the internet.
He goes on like fucking YouPorn and uploads this shit.
And then I'll slap my ads around it and make copious amounts of money that I don't know what I'll do with.
It's just good to have that option.
When do you want to retire? Like, why is this machine thinking about retiring?
Stop asking questions and keep fucking me in the ass, Rogers.
Okay, pull that camera up and keep filming.
Better! Oh, there is, like, he looks over, he's like, oh, there is grace even in their failures.
This is what like should have been when Ant-Man had to break in.
This is like the other.
Instead, we had to just settle for fucking him fighting Falcon.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was then like when Falcon literally lands down. It's like, oh shit, they're actually using. I know it's not like Thor, or Captain America, but they're literally using a Falcon, who they are trying to make a bigger character. I'm like, oh wow, they actually got Falcon because he was a major character in Captain America too. So it's like, oh wow, that's actually kind of surprising. That's actually pretty cool. Then he actually gets in this really badass fight with Falcon. And then he ends up getting out of there with the little like miniature reactor thing. And then the very end of the movie, after he saves the day and gets I mean, it's one of those things I can try and explain what happens in the movie, but you've kind of seen the thing about it. It's a heist movie, but really all the like from point A to point B, it all kind of happens the way you'd expect. Heist goes wrong at some minute. They get back on track. Bad guy finds out who he is, goes to his daughter's house, tries to kidnap the daughter, and then they get in this big battle. It's kind of cool. And then he ends up, hooking up with the new Wasp. And then what ends up happening is he stays Ant-Man to do the superhero thing. But the thing is, at the very end, you find out Falcon is looking for him. For what reason? I don't know. And then you wait for the post-credit scenes. And this is actually, I'm glad they actually gave us a real good post-credit scene. Because it's been
kind of crappy in the last, 3 or 4 movies.
Well, Phase 1, they were good. Because it was always telling us something that was on the way. And then Phase 2, there was, a few good ones. But they just became kind of like this little, joke. Kind of like, oh, look, there's the fucking dog thing chasing in Thor 2. There's a dog thing chasing a bird. Or oh, there's even though I love Winter Soldier, we knew Bucky was alive. We knew he was alive. We knew he was on the run. Of all the things we could show, why do we got to show him looking at kind of his old profile at the Captain America Museum? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is one where it actually was. And Avengers 2 didn't have any, just as a fuck you, I think. So they knew people would be waiting by for something. It's fuck you don't get it. But this actually had a real one. This had some. I'm surprised they did this. It's you find out they weren't in costume or nothing, but Falcon and Captain America caught Bucky. You're like, oh, we gotta.
And now, if you heard the previous part of the podcast, now you're really wondering what they're gonna do with Bucky. We got him now. Okay, get the camera out.
Vision's just
I found you. You're Bucky. Now butt fuck this Bucky.
Do it. Do it now.
Do it while he's partially drugged.
Yeah, he's I just see a fucking Vision holding a camera phone. Yeah, that actually make it creepy. It's an 8mm old style camera.
He's fucking winding it too. He's like, I love old technology. Makes me feel superior.
Yeah, that is hot. Keep doing it that way. And Kevin's like, are you sure this is part of are you sure he's gonna clear his mind? I don't know. Let's find out.
According to my database, yes.
Probably.
Humans are so easy to lie to.
Yeah.
Oops,
What was
did I say
that?
that out loud?
What was that? Nothing. Okay. He's just like rolling it. Who's a dirty little patriot? Who's a dirty little patriot? You fucking mouth whore. Yes.
But no, that was kind of cool. They had the little Bucky scene there at the end.
And then
The one that
and he's
I was kind of expecting in this movie is because I remember that they mentioned that there was going to be, some Avenger character in there, and then when they had the Falcon scene, like that's actually who I thought was going to be in the movie. I was like, oh, Falcon, like, and I like it. It was a sweet scene, but like that's who I kind of thought. I was kind of hoping though that they were going to throw in a character that we've never seen before. That's what I was almost hoping more for.
like
Though.
like Stephen Strange or Spider Man.
Yeah, well, yeah, or even like what's it like Black Panther.
I'm waiting for the Black Panther. That's probably like the most of all the movies that haven't been made yet by Marvel Studios. Black Panther's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah, like I was expecting something like that, like an extra character that was just totally new, because that was what made sort of like at least the early kind of like secret stuff in it was like they were like, oh, okay, well here's the character that's gonna be in the next movie, or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not really saying anything against it, but that's you kind of hope for those little things.
This was more teasing like Civil War than anything else. I don't really know how many movies we got before Civil War. I know Civil War is filming right now. I know Spider-Man's going to be in Civil War. So I don't know if they're going to get the Spider-Man movie done first or what, but I know they do have like what was it? They got this basically ends with kind of like, well, they capture Bucky. He's not like a snuff film by Vision, but they capture Bucky, and they are like they
Just
are
Snuff Vision.
Snuff Vision.
That's his production company.
Vision's been like after every mission, he takes one of the guys they capture. He says like, "Just give me this, I help save the world." What's another dead convict in our basement?
And somebody leans over to you, have you ever noticed that Vision never seems to grab any women? It's always just men. Vision's not gay. He is just curious.
He wants to know how this works.
This baffles the computer mind.
At some point, they like fucking sit him down. They're like, Vision, we want to talk to you about something. And he has like fucking some like C rank like Marvel villain like on like a gag and ball, like on a leash. It's like the human laser. What? Well, Tony, you want to take the lead here? Well, you see,
this is how Civil War starts.
Yeah.
Captain and Tony get in this big argument over Vision's video making.
He says, "Hey man, if he's making money, he's happy. I am very happy, aren't we, Human Laser? Aren't we, Human Laser?" He like starts whipping him.
Tony just kind of gets this thing where he's like, yeah, well, other than me, Vision's the only other guy throwing money into this whole operation, Captain.
Yeah.
Captain Unemployment.
Yeah. Oh, we're going there.
Captain Welfare.
I paid my. He says, I tried to get Congress to sign a bill like cutting VA welfare or the VA checks or whatever.
Because I'm sick and tired of seeing you sitting on your fat ass. He's like, hey, I'm not fat. Yeah, well, that's where you will be. You keep going down that VA.
If you had that fucking VA check, would you? Yeah, that's what I fucking thought.
I mean, like, at the ISIS, because you're fucking 98 years old, you get this huge pension.
You're just this fucking, you don't work for nothing. Like, Tony, you were born into money. Yeah, well, it doesn't mean I stopped working. It's this fucking, it's the total, Republican versus, working class thing.
Why can't you be more like Vision? At least he's an entrepreneur.
At least he's making money. He's doing them. He's just like, they will bow before my art. They will see it all.
It's not like really.
Human Laser, show them your laser hole. Show them your laser hole. Do it. Starts beating him.
See, Tony just looked. He's like, I don't really get it, nor do I really think it's a good thing. But I like the money part of it. I like the contribution.
Yeah. He's doing something, right? You know, he's doing something.
You know,
And as
we
long
let
as they
Peter come in here because he works at a newspaper company. It may not pay a whole lot, but better than your welfare checks.
Yeah. And you're not even employed by S.H.I.E.L.D. anymore. You're not even employed by the government. So it begs the question, Rogers, the fuck you doing here? What are you doing here? This is the Avengers. This is how Civil War starts.
It starts over snuff vision.
Yeah. Oh God. That's not how Civil War. That's not how the movie ends. But yeah, so basically, just like, oh yeah, well, we got to call Tony on in this. Like, nah, Tony's not going to believe us. Tony's not going to come in. You know, he's still mad at me because I don't have a job or whatever the fuck. And then he just basically he's like, well, then Falcon's like, I know someone who we can call, and then just Ant-Man will return. So it's like, okay,
I know. He just puts that Steve. I know somebody who has a job.
It's just Vision.
See, that's what they should make. They should, like, okay, in all seriousness, they should make the buddy movie of Vision and Hawkeye. Let's take the two characters that probably won't get their own solo movie. We just make it like Hawkeye and Vision. You know, like traveling here. Fuck it. We're not gonna get the Traveling Heroes Green Lantern, Green Arrow movie. Let's do this through the next best thing.
Just do it. Be like the it's like 48 hours. You know.
It's like Vision's like Nick Nolte for some reason.
Yeah.
I want to be Nick Nolte.
Yeah. I want to be Nick Nolte. It will be fun this way.
I want to go to Redneck Bar and go have a hoot and holler.
That's how I see. Well, I'm just saying he would be Nick Nolte because Nick Nolte's like, isn't he like the seasoned one? He's like the veteran. He knows what he's doing. So he's be like, I am all wise and I know what I'm doing. Let me go about it the way I do. You know, where I'm not saying that's what Nick Nolte totally is, but he's just the seasoned
or
guy.
Sounds like.
No, but that's my vision. That wasn't my Nick Nolte. That was my vision. But
Nick Nolte plays the Vision.
Oh my God, that would have been amazing. Oh, God damn it. What you want?
Steve! Get over here. You gotta help out my Snuff Productions. I mean, I know it's not really on the books for the Avengers code, but, you know. Clearly somebody's not throwing a whole lot of money in here. You know, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
I just see fucking, like, after, like, a big mission goes good, like, Vision, played by Nick Nolte, he's just kind of like, yeah, he's really good in the field, but we just kind of leave him to his devices, literally just leave him to his devices and let him fuck off. So, you know, it's just like, they're having the big party, and he's just kind of like leaning back in a lazy boy chair, and like, during the party, everyone's else going on, like, hey, Steve! People like, just out of earshot, just trying to ignore him, like, you're like, yo, Sam, get over here, Falcon, Sam, get over, oh, God damn it, like, and then Steve gets a little close, Steve! And he just finally just walks over. He says like, "What is like? Check this shit out. Check this." He pulls out like a smartphone. Want to check out this new? He's like, Snuff Film Productions. Check this new one out. I don't fucking no. Watch it. It's fucked up. It's fucked. See, I didn't know they could do that. Did you? I didn't know they could fold that way.
Goes, look, that's you and Bucky.
All right, it's not really you. It's a 14-year-old Filipino boy dressed as you, but it's fucked up, right? It's gonna get
and the one playing Bucky's actually his brother, so that makes it really fucked up. But
don't ask. I don't know. I'm trying to understand the human condition. You know.
They said they'd both do it if I bought them a meal at Taco Bell, so I thought it was well worth it.
Oh man. Work with the underprivileged it always helps me out in the long run. I'll tell you that right now.
I told him the Baja Blast would be extra though.
Yeah. Small. You gotta work your way to the extra large.
Small and put a lot of ice in it too. I don't want him enjoying it too much. Do I get a discount if there's less soda and more ice?
That is some fucking cold ass shit. Oh my God. I can just see like, as they're going to fucking sip it, like, yeah, like he's like leaning in, looking them in the eye, like, yeah, yeah, just like 5 seconds into sipping, he just like it's out, like, oh, over so soon. You just see like a small tear building up in the corner of their eye. 1 second, let me get this. This be a great, like, you know, a great stinger for the end of Snuff Vision.
Hope you enjoy your iced tap water now.
Oh my god, Nick Nolte is Vision.
See, the Vision. I think there's so much possibility with Vision without even going into regular Vision storyline.
Oh man, no, but I'm just imagining him just kind of like he doesn't look all like pristine and cool and like suave like or smooth like he does in the movies, because in the movie you could tell who he was, but he didn't look cheesy or silly. It looked
Talking about
like
Nick Nolte or Vision?
the real Vision in the movie. But the Nick Nolte version, it would look like he's wearing like a Halloween costume, like you just spray painted his face red. You know what I mean? Just has this huge gut. Like when we saw Parker and like, oh, Nick Nolte's gonna be in this. That's cool. And then you're watching the movie and like, I don't know what the fuck happened, but he just was like a giant frog. And there's literally a part where he leans into Jason Statham and whispers something, but all I could hear is, it's like, what? I couldn't hear a fucking thing. And the whole movie just looked like you just poked him with a stick. You know, like he just said.
You kind of sit on that lazy voice. Somebody came by, poked him with a stick, got a couple lines out. God knows what those lines were.
They just wheel him out. They just push him out. Like, is my chair got wheels? Good. You know, they just like shove him out.
Where's my Filipino brothers?
Yeah, just get him just be Vision. You know what I mean? Vision could like just shoot his like laser blast things from his forehead, and he could just sit in a lazy boy at all times.
Well, the bottom line of this all is go see Ant-Man. It's a great movie. Maybe not a JP4 or a Terminator 5
Or
a Mad Max or a Fast and the Furious 7. Okay, let's not just like discredit it. It's still a damn good movie. I think it's very enjoyable. And even though it does kind of a regular superhero story, it has so many elements in it that change the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And really, is this the last superhero movie of the year?
I don't know. There might be, like, I think this is the last, like...
That's what we care about.
I mean, I don't know. Now there's so many coming out.
Because there's no DC one, and there's no... I don't think there's any other Marvel movies. And we know that's all the superhero movies there is.
Now there are, because they ran out of, like, Dark Horse stuff and everything else from there, so... I don't know if they're ever making Hellboy 3, which I'd like to see, but...
No, they are making Hellboy 3. I think there was I think there was, like, a teaser of it at Comic-Con.
Oh, shit, that's awesome. Do you know if Guillermo del Toro's involved?
I don't know very much about it. I just kind of heard something about it, and, you know, it was like a little tidbit, and that was all it was. And I meant to go research it more, and I kind of forgot about it until you just reminded me.
Because I always liked Hellboy, at least. I never read the comics a whole lot. I liked what I read, but I always liked that character. And the movies they're not amazing. They're just more like, I like them, and it's more, I like the art direction. It's one of those things where it's like, the movie itself is decent, but it's more of just like, the art direction, the style, and the action kind of outweighs, like...
Ron Perlman.
And Ron Perlman, because Ron Perlman's awesome, yeah.
He was like born to play Hellboy.
He was born to play Hellboy.
Which was not something that you like really any parents think about. Like, my child's born to play the Hellboy.
Well, for a while he didn't want to do, because he would always get like casted all like these guys in makeup and all that, and he didn't want to do it after a while. But then like Hellboy's like, all right, I'll do Hellboy. You know, people like me as this character. So
yeah, it's like, but I think that is it. I think Ant-Man's the end of it for this year.
All right, well, I'm sure there'll be something around the corner. There's got to be some Marvel movie coming out next year. I don't know which one, but I think Civil War is coming out next year, which it seems kind of weird. That seems like it would be one right before Avengers, but no, that's coming out next year.
Yeah, so
it seems like Avengers big. It almost seems like it's just another Avengers movie coming out. I know it's not, but it almost seems like how many characters are in it and how much they're blowing this thing up. Like it is going to be like the next Avenger movie, you know?
Well, it's one of those ones. It's titled under Captain America, but it's really more just like it really should just almost be called Avengers 3.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Civil War. Like that to me makes more sense because you know, if it was a Captain America movie, it should just be kind of Captain America and like other Captain America characters more than anything else.
I think the main villains are Captain America villains because it's got Crossbones and it's got Baron something. The guy that dresses in purple.
Oh, okay. So there is more Captain America-ness to it. Okay, I was thinking it was more just one of those ones they were just kind of like for some reason using the name. Okay, that makes more sense then.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Well, it's getting pretty darn late, so I think that's a good place to end it at. Make sure to go to oldmanorange.com and check out all kinds of other good podcast, animation videos, and more. Until then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I'm Ryan Dunigan.
And we'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.
Thanks for listening to the Old Man Orange podcast. Check out our website at oldmanorange.com for even more podcasts, cartoons, videos, music, and more. Send us an email at oldmanorangepodcast@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review us on iTunes, Podomatic, or any of the other fine sites we might be located on. If you want to help out even more, click on the Amazon or GameStop links on our webpage before you make any purchases there. It won't cost you a penny, but it sends us a little something our way. Thanks again, and tune in next week for more Old Man Orange Podcast.